This 14-room French-style mansion on Phelps Lane in North Babylon was once the summer home of businessman David Schnorr. Today it sits on the same land that the mansion of entrepreneur and politician Royal Phelps once stood.
Mr. Phelps was, like other wealthy men of his day, liked to come out to Long Island, to the countryside, to trout fish. And in fact, his pond was touted as one of the most plentiful of trout ponds here. And he'd bring his friends out here, including August Belmont, who he introduced to this area. And then just within a few years, August Belmont buys over 1,000 acres just north of here, bordering on Phelps's property. In 1906, the property was sold to John Montgomery Ward. Ward was a very famous baseball player in the 1800s, played for a number of New York teams. After his baseball career was winding down, he went to law school and became a lawyer and an advocate for baseball players and their rights. They were really being taken advantage of, and he's well known for his work not only on the field, but as an advocate for baseball players. Mr. Ward did sell the property prior to his death, a few years beforehand, and it was owned by a few people in the 20s and 30s until the property was sold in 1941 to David Schnorr. David Schnorr, who had been born in Germany and lived in Germany, escaped Germany in the 1930s when Hitler was coming to power, and he went to Paris, France for a few years, eventually coming to New York City around 1940.
No pictures are known to exist from the original Phelps mansion, but Schnorr had it demolished and built this mansion in its place.
By spring of 1942, this mansion was completed. Now, many people think that this mansion is older than 1942, and that's because it reflects an older time. One thing that we've learned from Schnorr's family is that wherever he lived, whether it was Germany, Paris, or New York City, he had a country house and he had a city house. And this was his country house. It is designed in a French country style. Large rooms, a very ornate staircase. It was room for him and his family.
After Schnorr's death in 1948, the estate was sold once more, this time with the intention to make it a public-use property.
A real estate group sold it to a company that wanted to create a day camp, the Stratford Country Day Camp, in the late 1950s. And they started designing it with pools and a children's day camp and a family place in mind. Unfortunately, they didn't do very well. They weren't able to make a go of it. And in 1960, the town of Babylon purchased the entire property, including the pools, and it became the first public pool owned by the town of Babylon for the benefit of all town of Babylon residents. As soon as it opened in 1960, it became a place for all the residents in the town of Babylon. They also started a day camp that very first year that continues today. In 2010, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the Phelps Lane Park, and we renovated the mansion, reflecting as close as we could the old residential dwelling. But it has been the Town of Babylon Parks Department since 1960, and it continues today. The centerpiece of the entrance to the house is the fan staircase, and from the entry you can see right through the doors out to the lake. The lake was named Elda by Mr. Schnorr. That was taking the first two letters of his wife's name, Elsa, and the first two letters of his name, David, to make it Elda Lake. Here in the living room, one of the small changes that was made was that there was a larger window that looked out over the lake. So you can imagine that this was a very nice area for them to entertain and gather with their family. There is the purple marble fireplace that is original to the house. And in the dining room, you can see that there are curved corners that helped us identify it as the dining room from older pictures. And it does then connect to the kitchen area where the food could be brought in. The library has built-in inlaid bookcases with a music theme. And in fact, there's a secret passageway that goes from Mr. Schnorr's study into the living room. And then there's also the sunroom that connects to the living room. It was very interesting during the renovation because there were bookcases that blocked the windows. We didn't realize that there were windows between the living room and the sunroom until we started the renovation, so that was a nice surprise. The exterior of the house is very close to what it was in 1942. From the park side of it, the front door, we tried to model that after the older pictures that we had. Outside of the handicap ramp that was added to the end, the house is exteriorly how it was in 1942. From the lakeside, there was more of a gradual slope of grass that went down to the lake. After it became the Parks Department, they added more of a stage area because there were plays and things that would be held, concerts that would be held off the back. So it has more of a shelf design now, but it was more of a gradual slope earlier. When we renovated the building, the roof was done in the original design, a slate roof or a tile roof, and all of the windows that were replaced in 2010 were designed to reflect the original design of the building as closely as possible.
In North Babylon, Chris Collora reporting, Long Island Online News.